Hi, my name is Luis Hernandez. I am the head bartender at Gibson & Luce, and we are here at the Live Hotel making the new fashions. The old fashioned is somewhere around 150 years old, so I think it's time for some newer versions of it. I wanted to play off of the original flavors with the rye and bring in something that had a little bit of bitterness to it. I think an old fashioned just has a lot of simple things that go into it. It's a very simple cocktail. There's only 4 ingredients that go into it. But at the same time, there can be so much depth of flavor and so much customization. The Old Fashioned is just a very classic cocktail and a very polarizing cocktail with how many transitions it's gone throughout the years. So maybe I'm just adding more wood to the flames, but that's what I do. So to get started, we're gonna use our Ipa Demerara Syrup, just a 1/4 ounce of this. So the IPA, we basically take IPA beer, we cook it down to reduce all of the alcohol in it, just to get that nice bitter flavor, and mix it in with some Demerara sugar, which comes from Guyana. It's a type of brown sugar that really plays well with a lot of the aging that we're going to see in a lot of the other products. You could use regular sugar. Brown sugar is going to be a little bit more accessible. So I would say if you can't get Demerara, go for the brown sugar. But it's pretty abundant now with so many nerd mixologists out there that it's becoming more and more of a regular thing. You're gonna need about double the beer, and it takes about 20 minutes in order to get all the alcohol out. You can leave it in there if you really wanna kick it up a whole nother notch, but we're playing with some pretty big stuff here, so you don't have to. Now we're gonna use Woodford Rye, and we're gonna use 3/4 ounce. And I like Woodford Rye for this because it's got a very high rye content, so that bitterness really goes through with the spiciness of the rye and brings up the flavor. Really keeps you warm in the winter, which is what we're going for. So just make sure that if you can't find Woodford Rye, to use a high rye, something like Old Overhold or Rittenhouse is always going to be really good for this. If you prefer bourbon, it will work as well because we have the IPA and the Demerara here, so that will help bring the spiciness up. Then we're going to use Lairds Applejack. I think a lot of people will be a lot more used to something like Calvados. But this is made here and actually in America, made in New Jersey. And the nice apple flavors go really well with the spice. It's just really good aromatics, and we're gonna tie it all in with the garnish at the end. Then we have Oloroso Sherry. So Oloroso Sherry has this really nice nuttiness. The apple notes really helps kind of bring these two down a little bit because they're both very powerful to make it very nice and palatable, something very easy drinking. So you can take it as a nice sipper, or you could slam it down, but it's not going to be something very, very heavy. If you're having any trouble finding Oloroso Sherry, I would suggest maybe going with vermouth. It's going to be a little bit on the sweeter side with vermouth, but you'd still be able to deal with the same alcohol content, something nice and easy and much easier to find. But look hard because the stuff is great. You can just drink it on its own. Sherries to avoid is definitely something like a cream sherry or a Pedro Jimenez, which are going to be dessert ones, overly sweet. There's Palo Cortado, Amontillado, Oloroso. Those are going to be the ones that you want to go for if you can find them. If you have to use Pedro Jimenez, then I would suggest using less of the syrup, but that depends on your preference. Then we're going to take this. So this is our Tiki Salt. This is a blend of spices. It's a blend of bitters that is salted with a little bit of citrus salt. So this is going to help, again, tie in, kind of rein in the bitterness and the spiciness from the rye and the syrup, and it's going to make it kind of round up the flavors a little bit. We always like to think of bitters as the glue that puts the cocktail together. But you can also just take Angostura bitters and put salt in it, and that would be as close as you can get to it, and it's really delicious. And then we're going to finish it off with orange bitters. This is kind of our little homage to the old fashioned. We're not gonna use the orange twist, but we're still gonna keep those kind of orangey flavors. This brightens it up a little bit. We have a lot of big, bold flavors, so it brings the brightness a little bit up, makes it, so again, you can sit on this drink and just drink it for a long time. Bringing in 2 different types of bitters helps with the bitterness of these two and the bitterness of this too. You have different bitters and different flavors going through. That helps round out the cocktail as opposed to getting bitterness from just one area. That might make it spike up and be way too bitter. And we're gonna add some ice here. So the number one question people ask me when we're making cocktails here at Gibson & Luce is why we add so much ice that's staying on top of the glass. And the reason we do that is because it kind of insulates from the top and really make sure that we chill that drink well, as opposed to just watering it down. We don't want a watered down drink. We want it perfectly chilled and perfectly watered down. And make sure that you're always using fresh ice. That way you don't have this ice that's already broken down. The drink is gonna last a little bit longer. And the flavors are gonna stay tighter for a much longer time. And then for a garnish, we have dehydrated apples. We make these in-house. They're made from Granny Smith apple, but you can always find this. Trader Joe's has them, Whole Foods has them, or if you have a dehydrator, you can make them yourself, which is great because you can play with a lot of dehydrated stuff. And this is a new fashion. Cheers.